When it comes to the performance of a manufacturing company, and I'm talking about the quality performance, cost performance, delivery performance, safety performance, we could add some others, but these are really the main ones that every factory really cares about. And if we look at how to sustain it in the long run, really there are three things that usually are necessary, right? So think about it as 3 feet, and then this is like a stool that relies on these 3 feet. This is why we call it the 3-legged stool. The first one here is effective management system. Okay, and really it's not just about quality management, right? People say, oh yeah, just the quality management system, ISO 9001 and so on. No, really, it is about the management system in general of how the business is run. And when I say that, what do I mean? I mean that the whole company really has to work in the same direction. It's not just one or two teams or departments and then all the other ones running loose, but really there has to be an agreement and a common focus, and really they have to manage based on facts. It's not opinions and politics and people getting in meetings and arguing for 2 hours about who is to blame and so on. This is really not the way to do, and they have to focus for process improvements, and they have to think of the long run. They have to manage for the long run. So manage for process improvement, well, what does it mean? Is that they need to set aside some time regularly to do what it takes to improve the systems, improve the processes, right? And that's how in the long run you get to better performance. And really that's management system. If you don't have that from the top, so it means if the owner, the person who really is the boss in everybody's eyes, is not focused on that, doesn't spend time on that, doesn't keep repeating it, it's not likely to happen, right? It's really a philosophy, like Deming was saying in his time. Okay. The second leg is the manufacturing processes themselves. Hey, you gotta keep them under control. You need to know what you're doing, really. And it's not, for example, if the factory just does assembly and then they buy different components from different suppliers and so on. Well, it goes through the whole supply chain, right? So your suppliers also need to do the same, otherwise you're going to get in trouble. And really, if we focus on the enablers of that, okay, how do you make sure your processes are under control? Well, the staff training. Staff has to be competent, right? They have to be trained on what to do. There have to be some instructions for them, some training. They have to understand what's going on. They have to really pull together, and this obviously is tightly linked with process improvement, right? Because a well-trained workforce will be more likely to think of ways to improve things. Process controls, so when someone does what they're doing, how do they actually know that they're doing it well? Are there ways to make it very hard or impossible to make it wrong, and so on and so forth, right? Do you keep sort of communicating with your process, listening and driving ways to keep it into better control, make sure it's within tolerance and as close to target as often as possible on the critical points. Maintenance, don't wait until the equipment breaks, because it's going to cost you a fortune, plus it's going to impact quality, plus it's going to impact timelines and capacity and so on and so forth. And you need to have a good planning system. Sounds pretty obvious, but it's amazing how often that's not the case. With a good planning system, you really avoid a lot of cost and late delivery issues. Okay, and it's really putting in place preventive systems, right? And really carving time for things like 5S, preventive maintenance, training, and so on, which are activity-focused work. Don't do only result-focused work, right? get the people to get in the habit of doing the same things over and over in a certain way, right? And really manufacturing has to be repetitive, predictable. Some people even say boring, a boring activity. Very, very important. When you get to that point, that's where you know that you have a good manufacturing processes. Now, number 3 here is about design and transfer to manufacturing. So if you do all of this about manufacturing system, the processes, well, if you don't have the right products to make, if there's no demand, of course it's not going to work. And if you keep developing new products that go into manufacturing, but they come and they create a lot of issues because a systematic approach to reduce risks has not been followed, then you are in trouble. It's going to keep disrupting, the process controls, the planning, and so on. And so it's a combination, right? So great insight about users. This is what makes products attractive, sexy. And at the same time, systematic approach to reduce risk. Well, what does it mean? It means things like risk analysis and design reviews, and testing the product design to failure, to learn and to improve and to iterate and make better products that will be more reliable, more durable. Things like testing of course the first parts of tooling and putting them together again in an engineering build and doing reliability testing again. There's a lot of ways, don't go into mass production right away. Do pilot runs on a small scale first, see what works, doesn't work, what the issues are, and fix them. I mean, there's a lot of things to talk about here in this systematic approach, the new product development process, or new product introduction process, often it's called, right? And the difficulty here is that the more innovative a product, the more work is needed, because everything is going to be new. The more innovative a product, the process also needs to be designed and developed. So that might be what you need to win in the marketplace. But what people don't think of is that you also need to put in place the resources to make sure it goes, in the right direction and supports and doesn't disrupt too much, all of your processes, right? And all of this is tightly linked, obviously. The transfer to manufacturing, well, there have to be processes, right? Processes come from the manufacturing system, and people have to be accountable and actually, work through the process and keep improving the process. That's what we discussed here, right? Okay, so that was an overall view of what leads to superior manufacturing performance. Obviously, some of this is applicable to any kind of business, but here I focused on factories and the business results of manufacturing facilities. All right, hope it was helpful. Thank you.